Hey guys, it's Tanya and I'm back with another video in my beginner gardening series. I wanted to show you guys what my garden looks like today and get started with a plan for how to make this a beautiful flourishing garden. Now you might be looking at this and going, why are you doing this now? Why are you out here showing this to us and talking about starting a garden? The reason is because you need to be planning for your garden when it looks like this. When it's green and beautiful and the trees are full of leaves, that's not when you want to start planning your spring and summer garden. You want to start now, in the winter, when everything looks dead, when it's covered maybe in snow or frost, it's cold, there's nothing growing out there, although I do have a little bit growing. You want to start your garden plans now. Why plan? Why do you think you need to plan for a garden? Well, if you want to find out, keep watching. Whew. Well, I'm back inside where it's nice and warm. So I want to talk to you about why it's important to start planning your garden in the winter. One of the reasons that you want to plan your garden before you start working in it is so that you can know what you're doing. You want to keep a record of what you've done in the garden so that you will know what works and what doesn't work in the future. You also want to take time to plan what you want to grow. Make sure that you think about what you and your family like to eat and what you don't like to eat, so you're not wasting time and space growing things that may be cool to grow but are just going to rot or go to waste because nobody is actually going to eat it in your household. You also want to plan the space in the garden. You don't want to overcrowd plants. You don't want to squish some out or make the space too tight or just too wide and waste area. So you want to make sure that you know what you're planting and you know how much space those individual plants need. I talked about this in a previous video, but some plants need a whole lot more space than other plants. So you don't want to squish a bunch of those plants together into a small space and then get a really bad yield, or use a big space for plants that really don't need that much space and end up wasting space where something else could have been planted. Planning can help you stop to think about how much of a particular type of plant you might want. My family loves okra, so I want to grow a lot of okra, and I know that okra needs a lot of space. Now, carrots, on the other hand, we like them, we don't love them, but carrots don't require a lot of space. So for our garden, we're going to need to use a lot of space for a big plant and to plant many of them. We will plant carrots, but we only need a very small area because you can squeeze a lot of carrots into a small space. However, that okra, that's going to take up a lot of space for us. The planning process also gives you an opportunity to take inventory of what you have and what you'll need. I have a big box of seeds, and I go through this box each season to see what I have and what I need, what I want more of, and what I'm probably not going to use again so I don't need to rebuy. This has been a lifesaver. Keeping them organized and categorized, get you one, is one of the best things that I've ever done. It helps me keep track of all my seeds and it helps in my planning process. I also use a gardening journal to help me keep track of what I'm doing. You don't have to buy a fancy book like this. This was a wonderful gift from my mother-in-law. Thanks, Mom. But you don't have to buy a journal. You can use a notepad, a tablet. Use something that you're going to write in and that you'll keep track of so that you can take notes on what's happening and what you're doing, what did and didn't work, when you planted. All of those details are important for your garden. Guys, I hope you're enjoying this video, and if this is the kind of content that you like, can you just take a quick second, please, and click that like button and go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed already, and click the notification bell so you'll know whenever I put out more content like this. It would really help me out and I'd appreciate it. All right, thanks guys. Now back to the video. One of the things that I find indispensable is to use a gardening journal to help me plan out what I'm going to put in the garden, to help me keep track of the supplies that I already have and the supplies that I need. So this journal is kind of pre-made and gives you a good idea of the kind of things that you want to start looking at or thinking about as you plan a garden, but I promise you, you don't have to go through all of these steps and details. Now, I do not keep all of this information logged in this book, but let me show you what I do keep in here. I have found it very useful to think about my plans. What do I want to do this upcoming season? And you can see that I sat down and took some time to think about my 2025 spring and summer garden and all of the things that my family likes to eat and what we want to have this year. I included some things that are wintering over but will come back next year, like my herbs, but I also included things that have already died out from last year and that I need to replant. So for my family, I thought about what we like. Tomatoes, specifically Super Sweet 100s. We like corn. We don't generally grow a lot of peppers, but I want to make a pepper blend this year. So I went ahead and got some jalapenos, poblanos, and cayenne. Good for health as well. I also thought maybe I'll plant some Thai chilies. We'll see. I thought we like peas, winter squash, okra, beans of multiple types, onions and garlic, potatoes, sweet potatoes, asparagus, strawberries, raspberries, and so on. You can see what we have. I took the time to think about what my space looks like. My overall garden space I know is about 24 feet by 36 feet. I have a few planters and grow bags. I'm probably not going to use most of the grow bags, but I did buy a couple of planters that I want to use. And so I listed those here and their dimensions. Why their dimensions? Because you want to know how much space you have. That's the most important information. I like to garden in terms of square feet. That's the first type of gardening I did, square foot gardening. And so I still think in those terms, and it helps me to plan out the spacing, how much space I have for individual plants. So if I know that I have a 4 by 1 foot planter, then I know that this is the amount of space I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 foot size spaces that I can plant items in, and I know how much each square foot can hold. I also think about what kinds of things I need to buy. I have run out of Sluggo Plus, which is really great to keep the slugs off of your plants. I know that I need to sit here and plan the layout of my garden. I want to kind of draw out the grid and think about what that's going to look like, maybe what I'll have to move, what should and shouldn't be close to each other. I need to assemble some tools that I have that maybe have come apart or that need fixing. And I also need to clean my pots so that I can start seeds. I started seeds last year and I didn't clean the pots, and pots can carry disease over into the next set of soil that you put in it, and therefore can contaminate your plants. So I want to make sure to clean my pots. So I'm writing notes for myself so I can think about all of these things fall into my future plans. I also decided, maybe I'll try the Three Sisters method. I have never tried it. I have always thought it was cool and interesting, but I was afraid to try it. But this year I feel confident enough that maybe I've done this long enough. I've grown all 3 of the crops, corn, beans, and squash separately. So I'm going to try them together this year. So thinking through all of those things are going to really help you as you move into the next stage, which is going to be to begin preparing your garden, preparing your seeds, and getting things ready. But you really need to know ahead of time what you want to do. This will make the process a lot easier as you move into getting that garden ready. One of the other things that I do at this point is I draw an outline of my garden plot. This says current garden. This actually is a little bit of a plan of my current garden, but it's the future garden that I'm planning. So I have drawn kind of really basic lines. I have not followed the grid, the grid spacing at all. This is just a kind of general picture of my garden. And you saw it just a few minutes ago covered in snow, but in its flourishing season, there are 2 main paths. And then there are smaller walking paths throughout the garden. And then there are beds in between those. I also have a couple of containers like for raspberries. I have one for a fig tree and one for blueberries. But by and large, I have these open spaces that are my spaces for beds. Like I said, I started out square foot gardening years ago. And so in this garden, I still use that concept when I think about what I want to go where. When planning a garden, you need to look at where you want to lay things out and know where to place them so that they'll flourish. So when I put this all down on paper, it helps me to realize, oh yeah, I have to put the taller things on this side of the garden because this is the north side. And the taller things need to be on the northern side so that they're not blocking the sunlight from the smaller plants. If I don't plan that out ahead of time, I might not think about it and I might plant them in the wrong place in the garden, and that's going to have an effect through the whole growing season. So it's really important to know where you're going to place things before you put them out there and to make sure that you have enough space for them. I have some crops that are going to be pretty big. The plants are pretty large. Corn plants are large. Tomato plants are large. I want to make sure that I have enough space for them. So I've decided that I'm going to put them on this side of the garden, but I'm also going to put them along the edges and make sure that there's a lot of room for them. I want a good bit of corn. So I'm going to use this whole section here and this whole section here. And I know that's going to give me enough space for the corn that I need. Now, tomato plants are big, but I don't want a whole lot. I just want to plant maybe 2. So I'm going to use this space right here. This is actually going to be about 3 to 4 feet, which is a pretty sizable space. But I'm going to put 2 tomato plants there because I know they're going to grow huge. They're going to take up that space and then some. Maybe you want to grow something like a tuber, like a potato or a sweet potato. Those grow underground. You need really nice, loose soil for them. So I'm thinking of where in my garden I've worked that soil the hardest, where I know that it is nice and loamy and soft and will get depth, get the tubers space to grow. So I know that over here in this area, this is where I have that kind of soil. So I'm going to plant my potatoes and sweet potatoes in these areas where I know there's room for them. So you can see that creating a garden plan and knowing what you want to go where ahead of time is really helpful in mapping out where things need to go according to sun exposure, according to their size, according to how many you want to have, or the type of soil that you want to plant them in. Once I decide what things I want to grow, I need to make sure that I either have those seeds or that I can order them in enough time to get my garden going. Now, like I said, I have been doing this for a while, so I already have seeds set up in my case that my son got me one year for Christmas. You may not have a box yet for seeds. That's okay. I want you to go online and order them, or go to the store now that you know, because you planned, you know what you want to buy. Go ahead and buy them so that you have them in time to start planting them. So I'm going to be pulling out boxes like this one that has my carrots, beets, and turnips. I'm going to be pulling out flowers so that I can go ahead and plant them and have lots of pollinators to make sure that the bees and the guys are coming around to pollinate my vegetables. I'm going to pull out the tomatoes and make sure that I get those ready. I want to know that I have what I need to get this garden going. As I mentioned earlier in the video, one of the key pieces of planning that you need to have on lock is your growing zone. You need to know what your USDA growing zone is. That's going to give you information so that you know how soon you need to start seeds and when it's going to be safe for you to plant your seedlings in the ground without them dying because of cold exposure. My USDA growing zone is 7B, and so that means that my last frost date or estimated frost date is April 15th. Now, it's February, and I might be thinking, gosh, that's forever away, but actually it's not. You want to start planning about 2 months before your frost date. That's when you want to start preparing seedlings that will be ready to go into the garden shortly after that point. So for me to be in zone 7B means my frost date is April 15th. So that means that I need to start preparing seedlings now, around February 15th, so that they have 6 to 8 weeks to be hardy and strong and transition into the garden. In case you don't know what I mean by starting seeds, I'm going to have a whole video on the subject, so make sure that you look out for that one. I do have a previous video that I've done on seed starting. You can check it out right here, but I will include a new video in this series about starting seeds as well. But for the things that need to be started now, I have to pay attention. I have to know what my zone is so that I know which plants need to get started now. So we've already planned, right? We planned what vegetables we want. We made sure that we had or are on our way to having those seeds. Now we know our growing zone, so we know, oh, I've got to start those seeds now so that they're ready to go into the garden. Because once they get in the garden, once that warm season comes, it's going to move along pretty rapidly and the growth is going to happen pretty rapidly. So I don't want to put them in too late. I want to have them nice and strong and ready to go. And plus, I want to start eating on them as soon as possible. So that means I have to have them ready to go as early as possible. Planning my garden will ensure that they're ready. During the planning stage, it's also a good time to make sure that you have the tools that you need. Do you have a shovel? Do you have a rake? Do you have a trowel? That's the thing, the small kind of handheld device that you dig with. Do you have gardening gloves? Please, please, please use gardening gloves. I know you might be like, but I want to touch the earth. And I do too. And there are times when I do get my hands in there and touch the earth. But there, unfortunately, are times where if you're buying bagged soil, or even if you're just dealing with your own gardening area, your own soil, you may have poisonous or venomous critters, insects, spiders, snakes. Now don't get scared on me now. I'm just telling you the truth, right? We're talking about outdoors. You want to make sure you have a layer of protection between you and those things. You also want to protect yourself from potential pathogens that can sometimes be in the soil. Sad but true. So it's a good idea to have gloves that you use at all times. Make sure that you have the clothing that you need. Get you a hat, right? Make sure that you have a good hat, a shirt that has long sleeves, some gardening boots, pants. You want to make sure that you have the proper attire so that you can do this job and do it comfortably. I know this may seem like a lot, but I hope that you don't feel overwhelmed because these steps are actually pretty easy to take. I sat down and maybe took half an hour to an hour to think about the things that my family likes to eat and to write them down. I also find tremendous peace in putting that information on paper and getting it out of my mind. I liked to think about what zone I'm in so that I could plan ahead and know what I need to have ready earlier. And it doesn't take hours and hours to think of these things. You might take one evening or one afternoon and just sit down and map things out for yourself, and you'll feel excited and energized and ready to go with your garden. So don't be overwhelmed. Trust me, it's an easy process. You just have to take the time to sit down and think through it. I hope you found this video really useful. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about how to start seeds indoors, and I'm really excited about that because in that video, I'm going to be showing you my own process of starting my seeds for the upcoming season because it's time, and I'm really, really excited about it. I really hope that you found this video helpful, that it's going to be the first step for you in getting ready for your journey, that you will get that planning done and be ready when my next video is out so that you can starting those seeds and getting them ready to go in the garden. Please make sure to comment. Make sure to thumbs up the video and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and click that notification bell. You might also want to check out my vlog videos. I put them up weekly, just showing what life is like for us here in our little urban homestead. We live in town, we garden in our backyard, we have some chickens, and we have a good time. So please make sure to check out my vlog videos. I just started some purple sweet potatoes. Check out this video if you want to see that process. I'm so excited. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.